Hello all. You probably expect me to start the show this time by sprinkling some 1960s TV show references like I did last week, which a lot of people, guessed some of them, but and congratulations to Norma from Acton, who guessed the Mary Tyler Moore reference when I threw her hat up in the air. But today, instead of doing that, I'm going to do the big reveal for the my most recent art acquisition, which is this gorgeous, gorgeous drawing by Teresa Oaxaca. Teresa Oaxaca, the way that I acquired this beauty is she's been, since COVID started, she's been posting every day a drawing that's at a very reasonable price that she, it's not even auctioned off, it's just at a reasonable price and they get snapped up immediately. So I tried not to be asleep at the wheel and always keep an eye out for it, and fortunately I was able to snag this beauty. It is called Scope Creep, which I didn't know what that meant, but she told me what it is. Scope Creep is when a project gradually becomes bigger than what it was originally intended. So basically, Scope Creep is the story of my whole entire life. But anyway, I'm going to be taking her to my framer, who I love, Susie Porges, and then she will truly be showcased the way that she's supposed to be. So when I get her framed, you'll see the results of that. Teresa Oaxaca, in case you don't know her, her last name is spelled Oaxaca, so look her up. I am actually wearing a pair of Teresa Oaxaca leggings. She does these gorgeous leggings and scarves. Here, I'll even show you this. She does these gorgeous leggings and scarves with her paintings on them. And they're pretty much absolutely stunning. They're like heavy duty, just right. And so they're awesome. So definitely check out Teresa Oaxaca. Right now her drawing is sitting right here in my little, this is sort of a pretend curated clutter. I don't really do a lot of curated clutter in my studio because it's all just clutter, But right now she happens to be sitting next to my Holy Grail, which is in there, and this is a book episode, is the latest BP Portrait Award book, because for me, the BP Portrait Award is kind of like the Holy Grail of portrait shows. I have entered every year for the past 10 years, and I plan to keep on entering. One year, I was invited back for the second round, which I was thrilled about. I also buy the catalog, which is these tiny, gorgeous little books every year, and I collect them up here on one of my many bookshelves, where on this bookshelf I also have some of my definite go-to books. One's by Juliet Aristide. I have my Charles Bard book, which is wonderful. It's got some great drawings in there. I've also got my little Norman Rockwell book collection. When I go antiquing, I'm always able to pick up a Norman Rockwell something because they're so popular, they're everywhere. And sometimes I'm lucky enough to get a Saturday Evening Post magazine with a Norman Rockwell on the cover. So that's how I ended up with a whole Norman Rockwell section on my bookshelf. So now let's head over to the main event, which is the couch and the coffee table. Incidentally, this couch and this coffee table are the ones where I watched every single 1960s and 1970s TV show in my house growing up, and these were castaways from my parents' house, and I couldn't cast them away myself, so they ended up in my studio. Anyway, let's start the show now. Welcome to Living Figuratively with your host, Judy Takács. This is the show that asks the question, why not fill your home with the fascinating faces and figures of people that you don't even know? Why not fill your home with figurative art? Each week, I spotlight a piece from my collection or some of my own pieces. This week is Book Look Week. So basically, I'm going to show you the cheapest and easiest way to fill your life with figurative art, which is with Figurative Art Books. It's kind of a low stakes, low commitment way to have all this figurative art in your life. It's not figurative art with a capital L. It's with a lowercase l, low commitment. So we will start, we'll do a little trip down memory lane. Let's start that way. The first figurative art book that I bought in my young adulthood is this one right here by Burton Silverman. It's called Breaking the Rules of Watercolor, and it's printed in 1978. I don't know if it's out of print now, but basically, back in the 1980s when I went to art school, it was really rare to find figurative artists that were painting in ways that I loved. And when I discovered Burton Silverman, it was like I really latched onto him. He was an illustrator too, but he was also a figurative artist. And the way that he starts the watercolors here in the Breaking the Rules of Watercolor is the way that I start oil paintings, with a lot of, scrubbing and washing and stuff like that. So this was a really, kind of a game changer, pivotal book for me. My first major art book purchase was this big, heavy beauty with paintings by John Singer Sargent in them. And essentially, this book, I got this at the Cleveland Museum of Art bookstore. And it's basically just chock full of all his best pieces. And I've sort of made it, this was 30 years ago I got it, which is kind of why it's all raggedy. But basically, I sort of made it there's Madam X, which is in the next. I sort of made it my mission to, whenever I go to a different city, to hunt down the Sargents that are in that city. And I feel like I've seen quite a few of these, and there's still plenty of them that I have not seen. It's also a really good go-to book for seeing brushstrokes and seeing how Sargent painted some of these things. This painting I have not seen in person, and wherever it is probably hanging so high that I wouldn't be, it's at the Tate. I wonder, maybe I did see it, but maybe it wasn't there when I was there. But I love just seeing the brushstrokes up close, because that is just this great guide for how to paint. He gives you all his secrets right there. It's a wonderful book. Speaking of lovely brushstrokes, here's a newer contemporary painter whose brushstrokes I absolutely love. This book is called Visions and Voyages, The Art of Susan Lyon. Susan Lyon is somebody that I met and saw speak and paint at the Portrait Society conference in DC a bunch of years ago. And she's been there a bunch of times since. And I love this book because it's got these big, beautiful, it's practically like having all the paintings yourself, because there's such good reproductions and the brush strokes are so apparent. And it's like when you can see the brush strokes, the painters are really just giving you their secrets. And they're just gorgeous pieces. And she's got some beautiful drawings too. They're just like stunning. I'm gonna start with show you my favorite. This little painting of this kitty I absolutely love. I think it's one of the top 3 paintings of kitties that I've ever seen. And I'm sure it's gone and snapped up to a collector now, but I feel like after looking at this, a cat never needs to be painted again because it's been done to perfection. So that's Susan Lyon's book. Another painter who I have more recently discovered is Nicholas Uribe, who also, the paint quality and the way he paints is just, it's like, I love the faces that he does. He's got this, it's not even stylized, it's this very expressive paint quality. And I just love looking at this book. Almost better, I love looking at this teeny tiny book of his, which is basically, it's a copy of his sketchbook. He's got this little moleskin sketchbook, and maybe a year and a half ago, he started a GoFundMe because he wanted to get his sketchbook, as gorgeous as it is, printed as a little book that's actually the size of a sketchbook and looks like a sketchbook. And he needed a GoFundMe to get the process rolling. And so when you sponsored him on the GoFundMe, I joined at the level where you get the book, and I think you get another book too, but you also get a little drawing. And so a few months ago, I got this wonderful surprise where I got the gorgeous book, and he sent me an actual little gorgeous drawing from the sketchbook, which I took to Susie Porges, the art studio, to get that framed up, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. I'll show you that in a different episode of Living Figuratively. But the paint quality in these books is just inspiring, and I just love looking at them. And they are great coffee table books. I mean, who wouldn't want to sit down at the table with gorgeous books like this on the coffee table? An easy, fun way to add to your coffee table book collection is show catalogs and high quality art magazines. If I'm in a show, I'll buy the catalog. If I'm in a book, I'll buy the book. That's kind of my policy. I just want a record of it. And I have a bunch of ones here, some from Poets Artists, which is it's like a family of very cool magazines, and it's like this whole art thing where they have all kinds of calls for entry and different shows and stuff. And this was a particular Poets Artist show that was curated by Alia Elbermani, who is one of the 3 founders of Women Painting Women, along with Sadie Valeri and Diane Feisel. And I actually went to this show and saw, just like this amazing set of work that Alia had chosen for the show. There's Anna Rose Bain. I'm just going to flip. These are Diane Feisel's, David Shalvino, and oh look, here's mine. Here's mine. This one is the one that has already sold. It's the sister painting to my Serenity Prayer painting. Oh, and some by Stanka Kordic, another artist in Cleveland who's fabulous. This painting is gorgeous up close. But getting show catalogs, all of these are available on Mad Cloud and Blurb and where else? Like Amazon and Barnes and Noble. It's really, very easy to get, and you get this whole assortment of art when you get one of these books. Okay, let's move on over to the projects. As an artist who does her own projects, like Chicks with Balls and the seniors and stuff like that, I love looking at books of other artists who have done their own projects and published books about them. So when I see an artist that I love that has a project, I will get that book too. This one right here, I'm going to kick it off with David Cassin's Facing Survival project. Basically what he's done with this project is he is painting these gorgeously truthful, realistic portraits of Holocaust survivors. And many of these people, here I'm going to open this up, he put it together into this gigantic, this is like a wall-sized piece. Many of these people are in their 80s and 90s, and they were children when they were in the death camps. And each one of them he's printed their story on a different type of paper stuck in between these gorgeous reproductions of their portraits. And it's really just a very powerful and moving, stunning book. And the reason that I was able to get this, I'm not sure if there's any more that are left. He has a Patreon page, which for those of you that don't know, Patreon pages, that's a way for an artist to basically have sort of an organized system of people that are their supporters, collectors, and patrons. And you can join them for like $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, you know, different levels. And you get different benefits. Like, for instance, if they're publishing a book, you get first dibs on this limited edition. So I was able to get one of these gorgeous books. I hope that more of them are available because everybody should see this book. So I joined his Patreon page and was able to get the book that way. So you may want to check out if your favorite artists also have Patreon pages and, you know, support them. Another project book, Gabriela Gonzalez Deloso, is you know what, here on the back cover, she has done this amazing thing where she paints her self-portrait into paintings, paying tribute to women artists who might otherwise have been overlooked or forgotten by history or forgotten by the museums. One of the things that people don't seem to know very much is that back in their day, there were a lot of women artists that were actually very successful during their while they were alive. They were sought after, they got commissions, they got important commissions. It's just that history has sort of scraped them under the rug and forgotten about them. And a lot of these gorgeous paintings by, you know, these forgotten women artists are in the storage rooms at museums when the men's art is out and the women's art is in. And one of the things that Gabriela does is she paints her self-portrait into, like here she uses Frida, into these artists. And Frida is one of the ones that is not forgotten. She's gotten a lot of fame and everything lately. She paints her self-portrait into it, and this project has gone to several museums. It's also gone to Ecuador in a sort of a smaller format. She did these amazing little pieces that she was able to, you know, take to Ecuador because it's very expensive to ship there. So that's a beautiful project. And speaking of forgotten women artists, Artemisia Gentileschi is one of the ones that has been forgotten but is now quite famous. My friend Norma from Acton, she's the one that guessed the Mary Tyler Moore reference, a bunch of years ago got me this wonderful book called The Passion of Artemisia. Norma's really good with picking out really good books, and every book she sent me has been a total winner. I read The Passion of Artemisia, which it's this juicy Hollywood story about this woman painter from the Renaissance who, you know, there's triumph, there's heartbreak, there's misogyny, there's feminist issues, there's a very bad rape, and then the Me Too movement stuff that happened after it, because back then, you know, as is true now, often women are not believed, and they basically put her on trial for accusing somebody of raping her instead of the rapist. But it's a fabulous book that made me seek out Artemisia's work because I had not heard of her before that, and so it made me go get this Artemisia Gentileschi book where, you know, her work is just fabulous. So that's another one that you might want to have, like a nice coffee table book with some gorgeous Renaissance art by Artemisia on your table. All right, moving along to a project after my own heart, Terry Strickland's Incognito project, which she also published a book about. Basically, one of the things that Terry Strickland did, she gathered her friends and family and asked them to think of what their alter ego might be, who their fantasy person might be. And so people pick different things. Gunslinger, this one is the magician. This one's quite scary. She's a vampire, I believe. And they dressed up and acted out these, acted out their fantasies, and she painted these gorgeous, gorgeous pictures of them. and had a big show about it. And because the whole thing was like all in the family, her daughter, I'm going to introduce you to Carly Strickland. Her daughter posed for this one, which is Professor Ratus and her royal court. And so she posed with her rats and all this gorgeous steampunk stuff. And so that was her alter ego. Carly Strickland also happens to be a artist herself and a graphic designer. And she did this, also after my own heart kind of book. It's a Star Trek A to Z, to boldly go from A to Z, where every letter there's like Star Trek references with every letter. So like this totally hailing frequencies, Horta, hypospray, H, helm. And she's got these beautiful graphic drawings. Federation, fascinating, 5-year mission, fencing. Anyway, it's a super good book. Okay, which all leads me to the portrait project that really got my mojo going. 10 years ago, I keep talking about the Portrait Society of America conference. I went with Susie Porges, my framer, who was, and still is a really good friend. And we went to the Portrait Society together, and we discovered the amazing Rose Franson. Rose Franson is a fabulous, dynamic demo paint. She does this amazing painting demo where it starts with like these crazy scribbles. She's like all over the place, and she's able to pull it out and make this amazing painting from it. And one of the things that I loved most about Rose Franson was that she was and still is, a 40-something Midwestern woman, painter, like myself. And she did this project where she painted everybody in her hometown, or 180 out of 800 people in her hometown of Makokata, Iowa. And she set up in her old city hall. That was her studio, was the old city hall on Main Street, I assume. And people signed up for 5-hour shifts. They would come and she would paint them for 5 hours. Other people would come and watch. And I'm sure it was super entertaining because she is just a very dynamic demo giver and speaker. And this book, I think it's amazing because it's also, in addition to just being like this fascinating story of how she did it, it's also a guide to how to paint so many different types of people. Like if you're looking to paint maybe an 80-year-old white man with white hair and glasses, look at this one. She gives away her secrets all in the paint there. And there's like so many different types of people that are in this book. And it's just like, you can paint the young, she's got babies, she's got older women, she's got younger women, she's got her husband. It's just, it really is a beautiful book. And one of the things that it did for me was it gave me the courage to embark upon my own project, which last week I think I told you about when I painted the senior citizens at my hometown senior citizen center, and then when I also painted the nuns. Seeing that Rose Franson did this gave me the courage to go do those projects myself. I, staged them a little bit differently. I didn't do 2 a day. I did 1 a week, and I took it home and I finished it on my own. I, started it with a 2-hour session, but I did start it publicly where people, came to watch, and I was painting in front of everybody and fielding questions and stuff. And that takes a lot of courage. But the more you do it, the more you get used to it. Rose's book also gave me the courage to embark upon my own Chicks with Balls projects, which where you can get these books. They're on my website. And you know all about the Chicks with Balls project, so I won't go into those. But I believe I have covered all the books that I have on my couch and my coffee table. And I want to say thank you all for joining me tonight for Living Figuratively. And remember that any book sales, my own book sales, I will be donating 50% of the profits into the struggling art community during these tough Corona times. Even though in Ohio we're starting to get to the aftermath part, but maybe not. Join me next week. Next week we will be doing Turning Corners is the theme, where I will introduce you to some interesting corners in my house that have, you guessed it, figurative art in them. And also mark your calendars for the following week, which is June 11th, where I will be presenting a very special episode called Love Athena, the Homecoming. I will be bringing home, finally, all my work that's been locked up at the Zanesville Museum of Art, including the Love Athena triptych, which has barely been seen by anybody. So next week it's going to be kind of an unveiling of that painting, and I'm going to tell, or not next week, this June 11th, and I'm going to be telling everybody all about all the inspiration and symbolism and everything that went into it. So, and next week, please join me for Living Figuratively with a capital L, same bad time, same bad channel, Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Y'all come back now, you hear?